Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a hydrangea. I've tried to refine it as much as possible. This is for beginners. Thank you so much to those of you who've liked, shared and subscribed. I really appreciate that. It helps my channel grow and that's wonderful. Thank you. So here's my palette, my usual palette: titanium white, primary yellow, raw sienna, raw umber, French ultramarine blue, sap green, and you could use hooker's green. This might be hooker's green, and alizarin crimson. I won't take up time painting a background, but I'll put a link in the description to my video painting backgrounds. This was one of the ones I painted on that, so it's easy to follow. I'm using a liner brush and raw sienna to sketch in the shape of my hydrangea, its stem, and where the leaves will be. You won't actually see the raw sienna through the painting. It'll just be there in the background. Maybe little hints of it will show through, but basically we'll be painting over that. I'm using a 3/4 inch flat, and I'm going to use French ultramarine blue and titanium white and mix up a palish blue, a mid-tone blue, and I'm going to paint the floral head of the hydrangea. Just straight strokes, nothing fancy at this point. We're just putting color on the canvas. Using the same brush, which I've rinsed thoroughly, there's no color left on it, I'm going to put the mid-tone green on. I'm mixing the hooker's green and the primary yellow in the pool of blue. I should have saved that pool of blue, but this works okay. I've added titanium white and I'm mixing up just a mid-tone green, middle of the road, and I'm going to stroke in the leaves from the outer edge in toward the center vein. Hydrangea leaves are quite big and leathery, and we don't want them looking too flimsy like a rose leaf or something else more delicate. We want to give them their strength. And we always paint a leaf from the outer edge in toward the center vein. I want a little variation in my hydrangea, so I've decided to put some pinkish, mauvish kind of petals in there. So I'm mixing up alizarin crimson with some titanium white and some French ultramarine blue until I get a color that I'm happy with. Be different for everyone. And I'm just going to, I've decided the light is coming from the right, so I'm going to put this pinkish color on the shadow side. I'm using a filbert brush. It has a rounded top and it gives me a good petal shape. I'm going to cover the round hydrangea with petal shapes, not individual florets, not 4-petaled florets, just petal shapes using this filbert brush. And I'm using a pale blue. That's my mid-tone for this painting, and I'll be adding darker blue on the left-hand side and a paler blue on the right hand side where the light is coming from. And then at the end I'll probably go in with straight titanium white on the highlight side, just to give an extra highlight to the flower. I'm going to paint the florets, and I'm using a large round brush for this. You could just as easily use a filbert with a rounded top. That makes a good petal shape, as we've just seen. It's really a matter of personal choice. I like to put my final florets in with a round because I like the little tip on the petal. and I think a round brush does that well. I'll put pale blue on the highlight side and a darker blue on the shadow side. The florets I've seen are usually 4 petals. I don't always paint 4 petals. Sometimes I paint 3 and a sideways swipe. Sometimes I just paint 2 and a sideways swipe. I'm just giving an impression of florets. You don't have to paint every single petal to do that. When you're not looking full on at the floret, you only see it partially, and you only see the tips of the petals or the tops of the petals. So that's why I do that sideways swipe. You could see me do it just there. And it shows that the flower or the floret is facing in a different direction. There's such a huge range of hydrangea colors out there now, and types of hydrangea. And you can really go to town when you're painting this flower. They're so enjoyable to paint and so easy to paint. You just have to follow that formula of putting your mid-tone color on first, putting all your petal shapes on, and then painting in your florets. And it's towards the end that you're starting to put in your highlights and your shadows. Just follow that formula and you're going to come out with a hydrangea at the end, a nice hydrangea painting. I found hydrangeas quite easy to learn, but roses took me 100 rose paintings before I was satisfied with what I was producing. To get my dark shadow color on the leaves, I sometimes use raw umber. In this case, I'm using French ultramarine blue. I do find that the blue and the alizarin crimson sort of make a painting pop a little bit more, and I like that in my paintings. So I quite often use French ultramarine blue for my shadow color, and I don't put it everywhere, just where I think the leaf is not being lit. And it's the same with the highlight. You only put the highlight in where you feel the light is touching the leaf, where it might be glancing off the leaf. And you can't go wrong if you think about where that light is coming from and where it might hit the flower and where it will cause a shadow or a shade in the flower. I'm going to use a filbert brush and show you how to put a highlight on using plain titanium white. A filbert brush has a rounded top to it, and it gives you a slightly different petal shape, as I said before. I want you to see this one. I think for my top petals I usually use a round, just because of that tip to the petal. I don't know the reality of hydrangeas. They may have different petal shapes depending on the variety. I really know nothing about it. But for my hydrangeas, I usually use a round when it comes to this stage. But you can see that the filbert makes quite a nice shape, doesn't it? You can see too that I've gone way beyond that original round shape area that I put in, that I sketched in the beginning. I like to add the odd petal and little swipe of a side leaf in there, side petal in there. I think it makes the hydrangea head look big and fluffy and more hydrangea-like. It's just the way I paint, and you may have a different idea of what makes a hydrangea look good. You have to paint according to your own vision. I've mixed a paler green for the highlight on the leaves, and I will say that this may not be the last highlight I put on. Sometimes I add a very pale yellow highlight, or even a plain white titanium highlight. You know how you look at leaves in the sunlight sometimes and they appear almost white, don't they? I like that effect. I try to achieve a lot of light in my paintings. For the centers, I use a mid-tone green and a Q-tip, but you could use anything that has a sort of rounded end. Even the end of a paintbrush works well. I've tried that when I couldn't find a Q-tip. And I don't dot in every single flower. I do 5 or 6 on the highlight side and a couple on the shadow side. And I actually use the same color paint for all of them. But you can vary that too, and that makes a little bit of a difference. Sometimes I use French ultramarine blue as the shadow on things like stems and leaves. I feel it makes the painting pop a little bit. And I also add alizarin crimson to my stems. I don't know why, I just like those two particular colors. And occasionally I'll try something different. There are so many beautiful colors straight in the tube. You can experiment a little bit and see what you like, see what makes your painting look more developed. I think that's what I want to say. I think as you add these things, as you add highlights and shadows and experiment with different colors, it enhances your painting experience and it develops your painting skills, and also it makes your paintings individual to you, depending on what you choose. Here I'm using a damp flat brush, and I'm going to swipe along the side of that stem because I think I've made it too large, and I want to take paint away, and this is a good way of doing it. You don't want too much water in your brush, you just need a damp brush to do this. And you can take away the edges of areas that you've overpainted or made some kind of mistake that you want to eliminate. And a damp brush is very good for that. You can also use paper towel or tissue of some kind, but I think that gets a little bit messier. I like to use the edge of a brush. Well, I really enjoyed painting this hydrangea. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll get your paints and canvas out and paint along with me. And hey, post some pictures for me to see. I would love to see that. And thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and share and subscribe, especially subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Think of something else nice to paint. Bye for now.